What is going on, y'all? It's Brendan Navin coming to you with the KBR Sports Podcast. You already know, the best sports podcast of your 24-hour day. Glad to be coming back to you guys with another episode of the podcast. Hey, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button and make sure you follow the KBR Sports Podcast on whatever platform you're using to listen, whether it's Rival TV, SoundCloud, YouTube, or iTunes, or even Spreaker. Make sure you guys go ahead, hit the follow and subscribe button so you don't miss a beat with the KBR Sports Podcast. But one thing I wanted to make sure I was getting off my chest from the beginning, because obviously, guys, in terms of the sports world, I feel like when you're doing sports podcasts or if you're doing sports videos and so on, you're kind of doing live updates by a day-by-day basis. And you, in a sense, end up talking about whatever the most recent thing was that happened in sports or whatever was going on. And for this instance, I would talk about the Duke and UNC game. That's the biggest thing that's going on right now that was happening last night. That was supposed to be everybody's crazy thing coming in. I mean, think about it. We were talking about a game where some of the ticket prices, the courtside ticket prices, matched that of Super Bowl tickets. Literally, they were matching Super Bowl tickets. If you wanted some of the tickets to go to that game, there was about 2,663 tickets to go to that game. That was the average. That was the hottest ticket in sports essentially last night, and it rivaled the cost of the Super Bowl. And I mean, it's worthwhile because everybody's thinking, hey, you're going to see the top prospects in the league or in the collegiate force, in which you're going to go see Zion Williamson, R.J. Barrett, Cam Reddish, and so on. And Zion being ranked, obviously, the best player on that team, the number one player that everybody's assuming is going to go number one in the draft. R.J. Barrett, his teammate, who could be the most viable player to possibly go number two or go to another team. And then Cam Reddish, who's also a top 5 draft prospect. And you're looking at those guys, you're excited to see them go up against UNC in a rivalry game. And this rivalry, I mean, when you think about it, this rivalry has come down to literally points at times. I mean, before last night's game, the record between the two of them was Duke had 51 wins and UNC had 52. And even when it came down to a point standpoint, Duke had scored 7,988 points, where UNC scored 7,985 points. So that just shows you how close it is when it comes down to these rivalries. But obviously Zion gets hurt, like, I don't know how many seconds into the game. And it pretty much just deflates the whole arena because it felt like a tournament level atmosphere. And that's kind of always how Duke and UNC games are, because it is the biggest rivalry in sports. And when it comes to their games, the college students show out, people from out of town show out, and it's always an exciting thing to watch. But you see in the first few minutes, Zion looks like he's going to hit a kind of a fake move, a spin fake move, and go back the other way. He puts so much force down on his plant foot, or his plant leg, being his left leg, and he literally powers through or explodes through his shoe. So then he just slides and he falls in an awkward way, and you see him reach for his opposite leg, reach for his knee. And he was able to leave and walk off on his own power, but it was a scenario where you were just like, dang, man, it sucked, because the energy just left the building once Zion was out, once he got hurt, because that was the guy. He was the big ticket everybody was paying to come watch, essentially. That was the reason why those tickets cost us so much, because you're going to see the package of R.J. Barrett, Zion Williamson, Cam Reddish, and that Duke freshman 5. And it just wasn't the same after he had gotten hurt. The feel of the arena left, because R.J. Barrett and the rest of the guys are top flight players to a degree, but they're not Zion. Zion is the guy that's been on highlight tapes since he was a freshman in high school doing these dunks that everybody's known. The country has known about Zion for forever. So Zion was like people showing up to watch LeBron James in high school. That was the level of anticipation there was for this game, let alone it was a Duke UNC game. So the rivalry and the tension there was at an all-time high. And so I could just see it, that you see the crowd wasn't as engaged. People were out of it. You had people showing up, like the likes of Barack Obama were in attendance. And you can tell that everybody's eyes are on this game, because even when Zion gets hurt, you see LeBron James send a get well tweet. Donovan Mitchell sends one. Barack obviously sends one after the game. And it's a scenario where you hope Zion's okay, because he didn't come back for the rest of the game, in which Duke essentially, after that gut punch, they just got washed. I mean, they lost 88-72. So after that point, they couldn't buy a bucket, really. They were struggling to really initiate offense. They shot 34.7% from the field versus UNC's 50.7%. I mean, Luke May had his way with Duke on the inside, scoring 30 points and having 15 rebounds without Zion around to be a rim protecting or a rim presence more so. And so it's just interesting to see the effect of one player, the Zion effect, in which one player can essentially make a game interesting, or even if he has other skilled players around him, that one player's impact in terms of his playmaking, his defensive presence, all that stuff, his basketball IQ, being all over the court, being a terror in terms of defense, and being a consistent mismatch on the offensive end. And you look at Zion, and that's what people want on an NBA team. That's what you want on the NBA court. The Zion effect, in terms of, you see the ticket prices. Imagine if Zion got drafted by the New York Knicks, and you see the ticket prices for this game. Imagine what Knicks tickets would soar to be if he got drafted by the Knicks, if they got the number one pick. I am begging to all. I know I'm not supposed to have any rooting interest in the NBA, but good heavens, if I have any kind of rooting interest, it's going to be to the fact that the Knicks get the number one pick and go choose Zion Williamson. I don't want it to go to Cleveland. Heck no, Cleveland's had too many, man. And at this point, I don't want to see another guy go to. LeBron was from there, I understand it, that's fine. But then they got Kyrie, they get the Anthony Bennett pick, then they get the Andrew Wiggins pick. How many number one picks can you get in a 10-year span? I'm done with it. Well, I guess in a 2-decade span, but they were good for the 7 years LeBron was there. Then that 4-year stretch when LeBron was gone, they had 2 first pick, number one picks within that span. No, 3. So it's like, I don't need that anymore. No, they have had enough chances to go and make viable picks. The Anthony Bennett pick was essentially a waste of a pick, especially when you had other guys in that draft that were viable players that could obviously contribute to a team. And so now I'm looking at it, I would rather have the Knicks get the pick and the Knicks become a viable destination for free agents, or just be a top flight place to watch basketball at, because that is known as the mecca of basketball. That's where you go to Madison Square Garden. Any kind of performance you do is different when you go to Madison Square Garden. Go look at comedians, go look at entertainers, anybody that goes to Madison Square Garden to perform, they all acknowledge that that's when they're a big I made it moment. That's when you realize, hey, I'm performing in the grandest stage of all entertainment. And so when it comes to the Garden and the Knicks organization, to land Zion would be a huge boost in terms of ratings for the league, in terms of overall watchability of that team. Because now Knicks game, I don't watch the Knicks. I'm not gonna lie to you. I can probably name about 3 players off the Knicks off the top of my head, but beyond that, the Knicks are just a bad team. I can't, and probably the main 3 players I can name are some of the guys that got traded over there in the Dallas trade, because beyond that, that's a bad team. And it's with reason it's a bad team. And they essentially put all their chips into the middle of the table to go after a guy with the likes of Kevin Durant and the likes of a Kyrie Irving. But when you're putting all your chips into that bucket, you better hope you have a trump card in the back of your pocket, and that trump card better be in the likes of a Zion Williamson, hoping that you're getting the number one pick, because wherever Zion goes, he's gonna make an immediate impact. That's just a freakish level athlete he is, and the caliber of player he is. And I personally, when I watch Zion play, there are aspects of his game he has to refine and get better at in terms of his ball handling, and obviously everybody always acknowledges his perimeter ability, his perimeter shooting. But when you're looking at Zion, I mean, he can defend, he's explosive, he can get to wherever he needs to on the court, he can play out of the, he's big enough where he can body people and play out of the post. A lot of people liken him to Charles Barkley, and sometimes LeBron did. I don't think he has the vision LeBron James does or the passing ability of LeBron. LeBron was so exceptional as a passer and creator for other people that to compare another player to him is very difficult, because even though they might have a similar athletic ability in terms of speed, explosiveness, and verticality, there's a uniqueness to LeBron in the fact that LeBron could just see everything on the court at such a young age, and his understanding of the game and knowing where people would be, knowing how to shift the defense, doing just little things, and having other players compared to that standard is just, I don't think it's fair to those players, because comparing him to a player like Charles Barkley, it's more within reason because he's more athletic than Charles, for one, and he's played that power forward spot and been an undersized person at that position. Because don't get it wrong, Charles Barkley was about 6'6", playing power forward, yet averaging double-doubles like it was nothing. And Zion, with that level of explosiveness and his overall size and girth, he can most likely play in the same mold that Charles Barkley did, if not something different, just because of the fact that he is a more explosive guy and faster off the dribble than Charles was, and he doesn't have to be as crafty as Charles because of his level of athleticism. But I do want to say that I think that Zion, if he is able to develop that level of passing to the degree of LeBron, because I'm not saying Zion can't pass, it's just that to compare him to LeBron at right now is doing him a disservice, because that's such a high mark to reach, or in terms of a league level comparison. Like comparing Trae Young to Steph Curry wasn't fair to Trae Young, because just look at what Steph Curry is in the league. I mean, the man's a 2-time MVP, unanimous MVP one year, 3-time NBA champion. And when you're looking at Steph Curry, he changed the league. He literally revolutionized basketball. And so when you're sitting back thinking about what it means to compare a guy like Trae Young to him, you're essentially saying, hey, you have to come in, break every 3-point record there is standing, have the league be such an efficient shooter. The league contemplates stretching out the 3-point line just to make it more difficult and make the game more fun, because you essentially removed non-shooters out of the league for a good portion of it. Because if somebody cannot shoot, it hampers their offense, and their offense turns into a unilateral offense where there is literally a point in time where the defender doesn't have to guard that one person. You see it sometimes with Golden State where people won't guard Draymond Green, but Draymond is just has a high enough basketball IQ. He knows how to still remain a threat even if people aren't guarding him, and knows how to still use his playmaking ability to find his teammates. But I think it is very interesting in regards to Zion to see what he's going to become and to see what kind of lasting effect he's going to have based on whatever franchise he goes to, because the franchise you go to does change what your outcome will be like, just in terms of your surrounding talent, in terms of the player development staff on that team. I think a lot of times that doesn't get talked about enough, because a lot of people will say, oh, so-and-so was a bust and so-and-so can't play. But a lot of times you got to get developed by the right team. You have to have the right player development staff. A team like the Oklahoma City Thunder, their player development staff is literally second to none, in my opinion. The way they developed all those guys in Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, James Harden, and now you're seeing a guy like Jeremy Grant balling there. Terrence Ferguson is balling there. You see so many different young players. Steven Adams coming up in that Oklahoma City Thunder organization, and you see just how much better each guy is in terms of their game once they leave Oklahoma City, or while they're still at Oklahoma City. Victor Oladipo was in Oklahoma City for 1 year. Saw how Russell Westbrook went about carrying himself and learned how to really develop and improve his game. Now he is an all-star on the Pacers alone by himself, with Miles Turner and some other cats. But in terms of just what he's able to do now, he would have never been able to do that if he would have just stayed in Orlando throughout those first few years and would have continued his career in Orlando, because his career wasn't on that arc. But he went to Oklahoma City and learned how to really ball. And that's a big testament. And Oklahoma City developed Serge Ibaka too. I forgot to acknowledge that. But you see just how many players they've developed. And so player development matters in terms of how a player turns out and his overall ability. Now, if a player's skilled and he's just a great talent in general, that guy is going to end up shining unlike anybody else. But it does matter in terms of the staff you have behind you and who's developing you. So I do want to see, I'm excited to see just the rest of this year, because it doesn't matter in terms of how, if you have that level of talent on your team in regards to Zion's case, because Zion is the key piece in this team. And if you have that level of talent surrounding you, when you go into the tournament and you're playing, each game is a game-by-game basis, you're that guy that has to be able to lead your team to the chip, and you have to be the deciding factor in winning a championship. And a lot of the elite talents are able to do so. And you want to make sure that if you're going to have that kind of effect, because a lot of guys, they make their names in the NCAA tournament. Just ask Steph Curry. That's where everybody knew Steph Curry. He put himself on the map and everything. And so I'm excited to see how Duke, especially with that level of talent, is able to win a championship. Anthony Davis was able to lead his team to a chip. Carmelo Anthony was able to lead his team to a chip. And just different top flight guys in the league, you see them having won championships in college and then be able to go on and have league success. So it's going to be interesting to see. But guys, it's going to wrap it up for today's episode of the KBR Sports Podcast. It's been the best sports podcast of your 24-hour day. Like I said earlier, make sure you guys go and follow, subscribe to the KBR Sports Podcast on Spreaker, YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, and Ramble. And make sure you all follow the KBR Sports Twitter page. It's going to be linked in the description below, as well as my own Twitter page also. And I'm going to put my Instagram down there as well if you guys want to go and follow my journey just in terms of different things I do on a daily basis. And make sure you guys go and follow my website and check out my website, brandonabin.com, which has each new episode of the podcast posted on there, as well as different blog posts and everything I posted up there. You'll see on there is a new post about the Lakers in terms of their challenges and what they face on a daily basis in terms of trying to get better and to return to title contention. So you'll see that on there, so go check it out. And guys, make sure you comment, like, and share the KBR Sports Podcast. Obviously, I always appreciate you all support, but let me know your thoughts. What do you think? How far do you think Duke can go into the tournament with Zion Williamson and RJ Barrett and Cam Reddish as the core? And how do you think Zion's impact would be depending on what team he went to? And how does he change whatever team he goes to? Because obviously it changes based on the system and the talent he has around him. And what do you think it would look like if Zion wants to go play with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant? And does that influence their free agent decisions? Make sure you leave all those comments in below and let me know your thoughts, guys. But until next time, guys, I'm out.